Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Crowd Chatter podcast. If I sound a little, whoops, if I sound a little lower today, like if my voice sounds a little lower, I do think I'm starting to pick up a little bit of sore throat. Also, my energy is not really all there, so sorry for the darn feedback. Um, But yeah, my energy isn't really there right now. I'm kind of tired. So hopefully this goes away soon so I'm not just dead when I'm trying to get on here. But we have some college basketball. College basketball rankings are officially out for the season. Um, Pretty crazy. I have not paid as much attention to college basketball this off season as I have obviously college football. Been very invested, so really I don't know a ton about many of these teams, but I am going to go over the rankings nonetheless. And as I do for college football, I will start from the bottom and make my way to the top. So at number 25, we have the Illinois Fighting Illini. No Kobe Coburn or no Kofi Coburn, no Io DeSumo. So really, what Illinois has, I don't really know. I'm pretty sure Terrence Shannon and Michael Mayer are both gone as well. So I'm not really sure who the Illini still have left. But ranked at number 25 is Illinois. 24, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Um, Kind of the same thing with them. Alabama's lost most of its top players from its previous teams, and I think a lot of other guys transferred, so I don't really know what they have either. St. Mary's ranked at number 23. I don't know how this team continues to find its way into the rankings. This is they're no they're just teams from Gonzaga's conference. Some was it the West Coast Conference (WCC)? They're bad, and so it makes it very difficult for me to really trust any of those teams. And St. Mary's is one of them. Just that those kinds of teams, I really just don't at all trust. And the same thing goes for St. Mary's. It's just they're they're not a team I trust. I think they have one good player like Aiden something or other. I forget what his last name is, but he's a decent player. He was a freshman last year. He looked decent for him, but other than that, I don't really know what they have either. Villanova ranked at number 22. That's another team I have absolutely no idea what is there. I mean, other than to me, that kind of seems like from college football when they rank USC when they didn't have Lincoln Riley or Caleb Williams or anything like that, but they just ranked them anyway. That's the kind of feeling I have with Villanova. They just ranked them because they're a big basketball program, not because they have anything. But again, I haven't paid as much attention to college basketball this off season. I haven't been watching it nearly as much as I have been college football. So I don't really know if I'm really missing something. But as far as I know, I don't know if anything Villanova really has on their team. USC, I actually do know has something. USC ranked at number 21. Obviously, the Trojans are home to the son of LeBron James and Bronny James. Of course, no one really knows how much he's going to play due to the what was it, cardiac arrest he suffered during practice at one of USC's practices. Obviously, not ideal. They also have, and of course, with Bronny James, USC also has Isaiah Collins, I believe is what his name is. He's the number one overall recruit in college basketball. He went to USC, and they still have one of their players from last year who's going to be, I think it's like Andy Enfield or something, but he's He's a veteran, and it will be a nice piece for him as well. USC is a team I'm definitely interested in seeing because I think they are a very good team. And while I don't know much about Bronny James yet, or really the other recruit either, USC should be a very good basketball team. Um, Baylor sits at number 20. Another one of those teams where I'm not sure what they really have that makes people so excited. I mean, I think they might have gotten a transfer to. As I said, though, I really don't know. I don't even know that really that much about college basketball right now. I would have to probably what's going to happen is I'm going to start watching college basketball games. I'm going to start watching some of these teams, and I'm going to see names on different teams and be like, "Oh, I remember that guy." That's probably what's going to happen. Is I'm going to look at these different players, and I'm going to see some of them on a different team and be like, "Oh yeah, that dude, I remember him. He was good." And that's like about it. Oh, I do remember Jalen Bridges. He's still around. Chamu Chachawa, if he ever stays healthy, I do remember him. Um, yeah, I don't really know anybody else on this team. Oh, Loner was okay. Oh, yeah, Caleb Loner. I think that's how you pronounce that. He was okay last year. Yeah, I don't really know that many people from Baylor. I looked over the roster. But Baylor's team, I'm sure they'll end up being good again. They normally are. So, I'd expect solid things from the Baylor Bears. North Carolina finds itself at number 19. They lost Caleb Love, so that's a big loss for them. They do still have R.J. Davis though, so that is a nice player to have. Of course, they also have Seth Trimble. I think he played for them a decent amount last year. Obviously, the big returnee is Armando Baycott, outstanding player, and he remains with the team. Uh, they have a couple decent players. It looks like. Um, I think it looks like they got a couple transfers as well. Of course, pretty much everybody gets a transfer at this point from somewhere. Uh, Transfer from Louisville. Harrison Ingram. That one looks familiar. I don't really know where he's from. Oh, Stanford. Um, James Okonkwo. That one's familiar too. Is that Marquette? Oh no, West Virginia. Um, yeah, a lot of transfers for North Carolina. I don't really know any of the players, but I'm sure as the season starts to get along, I'll get to see some of them and see what they're like. So, North Carolina, number 18. Or, I'm sorry, 19. 18 is the Texas Longhorns. If I'm correct, they lost a couple players as well, but they got they got a big transfer in Max Amos, the Oral Roberts point guard, was very good for ORU. He could be very good for Texas as well. Brock Cunningham. This is a team that I definitely remember a lot of these names. Brock Cunningham returns for him. He was really good. Dylan Dessou returns from, also a very good player. Tyrese Hunter, he comes back from. Jaden Shedrick, that's a transfer, I'm pretty sure, from Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and he was very good for Virginia. Dylan Mitchell, really good player as well. Yeah, this is a team that I definitely remember a lot of these names um, from remember a lot of the players from last year. Yeah, this is a team that I definitely could see being very, very good. A lot of really good players for Texas. Um, they don't really have that tough of a start to the season. They get more so of a cakewalk before they get to play LSU as well as Marquette. Marquette, that's a big one. Marquette is a huge game for Texas. They do play in the Empire Classic. I forget who else is in that. Oh yeah, It's oh, that's what it was. It was UConn and Indiana. That's the other two teams. They get Louisville in their first game, so that could be big games for Texas as well. Texas though at number 18, number 17 is San Diego State. I guarantee you, I will not remember any of the names that are on this team because I didn't even watch the national championship game last year. I forget why. There was something else on that my family wanted to see, and I didn't feel like going downstairs and turning on the actual title game, so, you know, nobody watched it. But I wouldn't remember anybody from San Diego State. I don't know if they lost anyone. I don't even know if they got anyone good, but obviously they're ranked because they were in the title game last year. It's probably one of, if not the only reason that they're even in the rankings this year. Kentucky sits at number 16. The Wildcats, obviously, this is a huge, huge basketball program. This is the bread and butter of Kentucky, and their team is dominated by freshmen. This team has a lot of freshmen. DJ Wagner is one of the big names. But yeah, they're dominated by a lot of freshmen. They are a very, very young team. They do have a couple seniors though from last year, including Antonio Reeves, who I think was a decent part of the was a decent player from last year. Um, a transfer. Trey Mitchell, they also get. I'm pretty sure that's a transfer from West Virginia. Yes, he went originally from Texas. Yep. Okay. Wow, so he's transferred a lot. But I know that name. He's a solid player as well. So they have a couple transfers. So they have a transfer or two, and then a lot of freshmen. So Kentucky is a very, very young team. So I would not be surprised to see a very slow start from Kentucky to start the season. And considering that early in the year they have to play Kansas, that is not a good that's probably not what they were hoping for, I'm sure. But yeah, Kentucky sitting at number 16. Texas A&M, after a very solid year last year, they are at number 18 or number 15, excuse me. But Texas A&M, what a season they had actually a year ago, really stinking good, and they have actually a decent amount of and pretty much their entire team, I'm pretty sure, from last year comes back. I mean, all the players of which they had from last season are still around. Wade Taylor I'm pretty sure, a big part of their offensive year. Yep, he was a starter for them. Tyrese Radford, that sounds familiar too. I'm pretty sure that's a starter. Yes, it was. He was a starter. Julius Marble obviously was a starter for him last year. Henry Coleman, I'm pretty sure that was a starter too. Yes, most of the games he ended up starting. But yeah, this entire team pretty much for Texas A&M is back, and they have pretty much everybody that they had from a season ago back for another year this year. And they don't get it easy to start off the season. They have Ohio State and SMU. I don't know if SMU is a road game, but Ohio State, I'm pretty sure it is. Oh, SMU is too. But they have to play both Ohio State and SMU both on the road right off the bat. Also get Oral Roberts, Penn State, and Virginia. Holy cow, that really is an absolute wow. And Memphis and dang, they have a really tough non-conference schedule. So Texas A&M is going to be tested very early this year. Jeez. Okay. Next we have number 14, which is Arkansas. I'm taking a little bit longer on this because I have never actually gone through any of these teams, so I don't really know much about them. And obviously the season's got a couple weeks still to go, but this is kind of what I did with college football as well. I stopped to talk about these teams a little bit more. Of course, this is taking a little bit longer because, like I said, I haven't looked over any of these teams before. So I have absolutely no idea who anybody has. Um, So I'm just simply going over the teams pretty much as I go through to try and figure out who everyone has. Um, but yeah, Texas A&M seems they have everybody from last year. They were very good last year. So pretty good team. And then next we have Arkansas at number 14. So this one's going to probably be the longest out of all these videos. We're going to go over the top 25. I'm considering. You tell me what you guys want me to do for college basketball. Do you want us to do a monthly review, kind of like I do with the MLB, and probably what we'll do for the NBA? Probably more so the NBA. I think we're gonna do well, you tell me. Do you want me to do a weekly review of or not weekly review, monthly review of the college basketball season? So after every month, I go over, the standings and everything and how all the teams are doing. Or do you want me to do kind of like I do with college football, a weekly review of the top 25, and we'll just go from there? You tell me, of course, as once we get to I forget when it is. I did it last year, but at one point I do start doing my own Bubble Watch series, so I will start that again this year. And I'll do the locks. I'll do locks. I'll do should be in. And I'll do you know uh, work to do, kind of like they do on ESPN. I do my own version of it. So I'll do that again this year. But you guys tell me how I should handle the actual regular season. Do you want me to do monthly reviews or weekly review of the top 25 of the AP poll? You tell me. I'll go off what you guys say. Anyways, back to actually the team of Arkansas, and I absolutely don't recognize any of these players. Oh, I know Dante Davis actually. I'm sorry, not Dante Davis, Devonte Davis. That's familiar. Um, what else? Malachi Mitchell, and that's a name I know. He was playing for him last year. Yeah, I don't know anybody else on this team, so I have no idea. I don't know anything about Arkansas. I I recognize absolutely none of these names, so don't know much about Arkansas. But they're obviously Eric Musselman, or oh, God, what's his name? Their head coach, I'm pretty sure it's Eric Musselman. But their head coach is a very good head coach. He knows what he's doing there in Arkansas and Fayetteville, and he does a very good job. So I'm sure he will do that once again. Number 13 is Miami, Florida. I'm pretty sure they lost their big player from a season ago. Because I'm pretty sure. Oh no, Nigel Pack is still around. Okay, well that's a big returnee for him then. Nigel Pack was very good last year. Or was it somebody else who was really good for him? I think they had another guy with Nigel Pack that was really good, and he's gone. Oh, well, they get Matthew Cleveland, transfer from Florida State. That is a actually pretty darn good player. Um, as for other players still around, I don't recognize any other names, so I really don't know what else is really all that great for them. But Miami was really good last year. They had a very good team. I'm sure they will have a great team once again. Number 12 is Arizona. Now, this is a team that I'm pretty sure is absolutely dynamite. I'm pretty sure this team still has a lot of the players that they had from a year ago. And this is a team that did end up getting Caleb Love because he was supposed to transfer to Michigan, which made me so happy because Caleb Love would have been an awesome addition to the Michigan Wolverine team, but he couldn't transfer a credit or something stupid like that, and so he ended up, pulling back out from Michigan, and then he ended up transferring to Arizona, and so he now joins Arizona's team, which still has Ballo, who's a really good center. Jaden Bradley, an Alabama transfer. I didn't realize he went there too. Okay, that's a really good player as well. Helly Larson was really good for him last year. That's a very good player. He now joins the team, of course, like I said, Caleb Love. Yeah, this is a team that, once again, should be absolutely outstanding and has a really good team. I mean, Caleb Love just being put into the team is outstanding. With Jaden Bradley, those are two outstanding transfers to, complement Ballo um, and Pelly Larson. Yeah, that's a really good. That's a pretty darn good team. Arizona's going to be very good. In Arizona, I would expect big things from them. Number 11 is Gonzaga, and I have hint hint. Just so you guys know, I have never, and I mean never, been a big Gonzaga fan. As I said with who was it? With St. Mary's. Uh, I just that conference is so pitiful that they never. I mean, they have done a better. They do a much better job now of getting non-conference games scheduled, and so they do make it tougher on themselves, and they give themselves, bigger competition. I mean, this year they play in the Maui Jim Maui, and they have Purdue, who we're going to hint. Well, spoiler alert, we're going to see later in this top 25 poll. Then they and in Maui Jim Maui are teams like Kansas and who else is in Tennessee, and really good teams. Syracuse is in there, I'm pretty sure. Who else is in Maui? UCLA? No, I don't think UCLA. Or maybe UCLA is. Actually, I don't remember if UCLA is in there or not. I'd have to look again, but obviously that's one. Oh, that's what it was. Tennessee, Syracuse, Purdue, Gonzaga. Of course, they're the ones playing each other. And then Kansas, UCLA, and Marquette. Those are the teams in Maui Jim Maui, and obviously the headliners there are Purdue, Gonzaga, Kansas, um, Marquette. UCLA is pretty good too. Obviously, that's a outstanding tournament, and of course, Gonzaga being in it makes it tough on them, and that's what you would want. Especially if you're Gonzaga, who has zero non-conference or zero conference competition. They also have USC. They also have UConn, which they're playing this year. Jeez, and they have San Diego State. So they have a pretty good non-conference schedule at least. I will give them credit for that much that they have tried to give themselves much higher conference competition or non-conference competition, I should say. But they need to find a way to get themselves, something. They need a new conference is really what I'm saying, because the West Coast Conference WCC, it doesn't work for them. I mean, St. Mary's is the only team that's really ever competitive with them, and they've beat them like maybe what twice in the past decade. I mean, every once in a while they get the better of them, but that's about it, So it's kind of ridiculous at this point. But Gonzaga, they're an okay team, I guess. I don't even recognize any of the names that they have, um, except for Ryan Nembhard. That one I actually do, and I'm pretty sure that is a Creighton transfer. Yes. But other than that, I mean, none of these names ring any bells. It looks like they have a transfer from Wyoming, but I don't recognize that guy. Anton Watson, I actually do. I'm pretty sure he was a Gonzaga player. But yeah, I don't recognize anybody for this team. I don't know much about Gonzaga, but never really cared to either. So, I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. I never really paid that much attention to Gonzaga because I don't like them. But next we have a bit of a surprise. I'm sure this team has never been ranked this high in the top 25 like ever in their history. Um, but FAU, Florida Atlantic Owls of the CUSA, who somehow made it to the Final Four last year, which, by the way, if none of you paid attention to college basketball last year, was the weirdest Final Four ever. Because yes, FAU, a 9 seed, believe it or not, made it all the way to the Final Four with San Diego State, Miami, Florida, yeah, a football school, Miami, Florida, and UConn, whose seeds were 4, 5, 5, and 9. So yeah, it didn't really make any sense, but that's kind of how college basketball goes, really. Um, but FAU, Florida Atlantic, I honestly I could not tell you a single player that they had last year because I just have no stinking idea who even was on their team last year because I didn't pay attention. But they don't actually get an easy break. They don't really get a break for the season. They have themselves in the ESPN Events Invitational, which is another early season tournament, and that one's got some decent teams in there, along with Texas A&M, of which I mentioned earlier, as well as Penn State, which are both actually. Penn State, I don't know how good they're gonna be. That's actually a tournament rematch. That should be really fun. Um, but I don't really know how good Penn State's going to be this year. But you know, A&M has a pretty darn good team. Iowa State's in there as well as VCU, Boise State, Virginia Tech. No, Virginia Tech, that's not terrible. And FAU's playing Butler, which has been a dumpster for a while, but you get the point. They have themselves in a decent early season tournament. So they got some bigger games. They also have Loyola Chicago, which hasn't been good for a while, though, or at least for a couple years since they played us really in the in what was it in the Final Four that one year when they were an 11 seed. Really, since then they haven't really recovered. I mean, they had the one year when they were an 8 seed and played, I think, Ohio State, and that didn't go well from what I remember. Liberty though is also on FAU's schedule. Charleston's pretty good. There's Illinois. That will be a big game for them. St. Bonaventure, Arizona. Yeah, they don't make it easy at all, do they? Um, but FAU, pretty darn good team. I think they actually, because of the conference change, they actually join the American this year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they do. So they have Tulane, they have Wichita State, SMU, Memphis. Okay, yeah, so they got themselves actually a decent conference now. Um, but yeah, FAU, I don't know how good FAU really is. But they had a magical season last year. We'll see if they can do it again this year. And number 9 is Tennessee, of which FAU actually beat in the tournament last year, shockingly. And Tennessee, I've never been a fan of Tennessee teams either because they never seem to have any kind of an offense, but they always seem to manage their defenses are always very good. I will never have a question about how good their defense is because they always seem to have one of the best defenses in college basketball, like every single season. Um, but their offense always seems to be all over the place. Some years it's okay, and other years it's utterly abysmal. So really curious as to see what the offense looks like this year, but Vescovi and Zakiya Ziegler are both back for Tennessee. Jonas Adu is, I think that's how you say it, but he was playing for Tennessee last year. I remember him. He's back from as well. Um, but yeah, they're coached by they have a good head coach, Rick Barnes, I believe is what his name is. It's something Barnes. I think is Rick Barnes. Either way, their head coach is very smart and very good. So Tennessee should be probably pretty good once again. And then at number 8 you have Creighton. Now I never will understand the hype around the Creighton Blue Jays because I know they've had even more transfers this year. Now they still have Kalkbrenner, which is obviously a big part of their team. Really, other than that, I couldn't tell you a single person on their team. I don't recognize anybody else. Um, I'll never know how good they really actually are, but Cockbrenner was obviously an absolute monster from a season ago, and I'm sure he'll be a monster from again this year. Um, but Creighton ranked at number 8. I really don't know about Creighton. This is a team that, like, I know Cervensky sometimes would say he doesn't trust USC for football. Well, this is the same thing for me. I never trust Creighton. I don't know why, but I never do. Um, I don't. I mean, Cockbrenner's really good, but I don't know what else they have. But the Big East really is us Marquette, and then nothing. So Creighton could certainly find a spot in there somewhere. And then next is the Houston Cougars. They actually, I'm pretty sure, do have some good players still lurking around, and they also have some nice transfers, if I'm not mistaken. But Houston now joining actually the Big 12, so they have a big, big conference now. Non-conference schedule actually is uh, decently light for Houston. Other than really Xavier and Texas A&M, they don't really have uh, much of a non-conference schedule. But like I said, they're also going to be in the Big 12, so you get teams like TCU, Texas Tech, West Virginia, Texas, Kansas, Baylor, Iowa State. So they got some massive competition. They get Kansas twice this year, so that is really brutal. And they actually they get Texas twice as well. So those are tough games if you're Houston. But they got a solid team. They have Baylor, a big time Baylor transfer actually, and LJ Cryer, big time guard for them, or for Baylor. He transfers in to he transfers in from the Baylor Bears. They also still have Jamal Shed from a year ago. He was really good for them. So yeah, I mean, Houston returns a solid amount of players. Once has a good team once again, and Houston, I'm sure, will be right there for one of the better teams in the country. And yeah, Houston should have another fine year. And then number 6 is actually the defending champions, the UConn Huskies, who ended up beating San Diego State in the championship game last year. Absolutely really weird looking championship game, but they were the ones that ended up winning it. And they have a couple players still. Sonogo, however you say it, he is actually going to be gone. He will not. He is not going to be with the team. He ended up moving on. But they have Cam Spencer coming in as a transfer from the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So he comes in for UConn, and they have a couple players from last year who are still around for the team, and a couple of freshmen as well. Don't really know much about UConn's team because I never really paid attention to them that much last year. But I do recognize Cam Spencer coming in from Rutgers, transferring in. Uh, but yeah, I don't know much about you. Oh wait, they're Big East too. Yeah, so there's more than just Marquette in the Big East. Yeah, I didn't really even think of that. Whoops. But yeah, UConn sitting at number 6, defending champions. Pretty solid team. Next, we have Marquette. Now, they had an early exit from the tournament last year. But obviously, the big thing for Marquette is they return probably their biggest player from a season ago, and that is Tyler Kolek. He returns for the Marquette Golden Eagles. He was a big part of Shaka Smart's team last season, and he was an absolute dynamite piece for them. They also have a couple other players who are still around from the team last year, including Cam Jones, David Joplin. He played from a decent amount last year as well. He never started, but he was a good bench piece for them. So they have solid play. They have solid players who are back from last season, and Marquette's got a good team. Last year they had an early exit because they got stuck playing Michigan State, of which I very much had. I had Michigan State beating them, but Marquette's got a good team, and they're only more experienced. They're only getting older, and it's mostly the same guys. So I think Marquette should be just as good, if not better, than a year ago. And next we have some really heavy hitters in the Big Ten. We'll start with Michigan State. This team is absolutely disgusting. I mean, you name the players for Michigan State, and they're pretty much all back from this year. It's absolutely insane. I mean, the amount of seniors that this team has, not to mention the big time not big time transfers, big time freshmen that are coming in. Yeah, there's a reason they're ranked number 4. Michigan State is disgustingly good. Tom Izzo's team. I mean, Jaden Atkins, AJ Hogarth, Malik Hall, Matty Sissoko, Tyson Walker, all those guys are like 5th year, 6th year seniors, and they're all still around. I mean, the amount of experience that this team has is utterly absurd. And then you have the big time freshman in Xavier Booker, who comes in for Michigan State. That's a big part of the team as well. And he's got all these seniors around him. And they also got Carson Cooper. He played a little bit for Michigan State last year. He didn't play that much, but he played from a little bit a season ago. But really the big ones, Malik Hall, AJ Hogarth, Jaden Atkins, Sissoko, Walker, all those guys coming back as like 5th or 6th year seniors essentially is crazy. And, this is a very experienced, very seasoned team that continues to play well. So Michigan State, and they got, like I said, they also have some big time freshmen as well coming in. So Michigan State's going to be really stinking good. I know for a fact whenever Michigan has to play them, we won't be close. We're not going to be even competitive with them. I almost can guarantee you that. That's how good they are. Michigan State is very, very good and should be an absolute, and will be, not should be, will be an absolute force this year. And next we have actually the Purdue Boilermakers, who had a shocking exit from the tournament a year ago. But kind of like Marquette and Texas A&M, their entire team from a year ago is back. I mean, they have pretty much every single player that they had last year back this year. I mean, they have pretty much everybody. I mean, you name it, they have them. They still have Caleb First. Zach Edey is back for Purdue, which is a cheat code. Fletcher Lawyer is back for him. Ethan Morton's back for him. Braden Smith, I think he started all the games for him. Yep, he did. Purdue's entire team from a season ago is back. And, just kind of like Michigan State, they're older, they're more experienced, they're even more seasoned. Purdue's team is going to be very good. And everybody knows in the Big Ten, the Boilers are pretty darn nasty. And Purdue's going to be, once again, they're going to be tough to deal with for anybody. And yeah, Purdue is really good. And next, number 2 is the Duke Blue Devils. Now, this is a team that actually I don't know a ton about. I know they have some big-time freshmen. I'm sure they have big-time freshmen. It's Duke. Of course they're going to have big-time freshmen. I do know, though, that a lot of their players from a season ago who are big-time recruits and were, possibly going to end up going into, the NCAA or go into the NBA draft all stuck around. And yeah, well, when you have that many really good freshmen who are sticking around for an extra season, yeah, it's going to end up being a really good scenario for you. And that's exactly what Duke has. Kyle Filipowski, Tyrese Proctor, Mark Mitchell, all were big time freshmen last year, all of which came back. Jeremy Roach came back for him. Ryan Young came back for him. And those are all huge, huge players. And then they have, obviously the young freshmen who are all coming in. And I'm sure they have a couple transfers as well from different places. They have a Stanford transfer. I don't really know him very well, but Duke is, again, just like Purdue, just like Michigan State, they're much younger than those two, but they have fantastic players from a season ago returning to college and playing another season. And that just makes them all the more dangerous. And Jeremy Roach is a very experienced player. That's a nice one to have, along with Ryan Young, but he's more of a bench guy, but he's a very good bench guy. And, like I said, Mark Mitchell, Tyrese Proctor, Kyle Filipowski. Duke's going to be very good. And in an ACC that really outside of Miami and then maybe Virginia, UNC's okay. There's not a ton of great teams in the ACC, so there's a very good chance that Duke could absolutely dominate the ACC conference. And then at number one, it's not really all that close for good reason. And the number one team in the country to start off this year and probably to stay, and should be to stay, is none other than Kansas. And, when you look at this team, you look at the guys that are returning and the guys that are transferring in, yeah, there's a reason that Kansas is ranked at number one. I mean, players from last year coming back. Obviously, they don't have they don't have Jalen. Why am I forgetting Jalen Smith? It's not Jalen Smith. Was it Jalen Smith? I don't know, but yeah, I am absolutely blanking out on his name right now. I think he's a Cav, but obviously he was a huge player for Kansas last year. He was the heart and soul of their team and was really why they won games. And, obviously losing him is going to be a huge loss for Kansas. But, yeah, they have probably the best transfer that has ever entered the transfer portal. If you guys can't tell what I'm hinting at, now it's really bothering me. I really got I gotta figure this out now. I gotta figure out it. I know it's Jalen. But I'm completely I'm really trying to figure it out. Jalen Wilson. There we go. I cannot remember the last name. Jalen Wilson. He was huge for Kansas last year, but he is no longer around. So, they need to get some other players into the team, try and, help that out a little bit. And they got Hunter Dickinson. I'm sorry, there is not a single transfer that will be better than Hunter Dickinson. I'm a Michigan fan. I know how good Hunter Dickinson is. He gets to play in the Big 12. Oh, baby, he's going to be feasting. Hunter Dickinson was unbelievable for Michigan. I mean, it's outstanding. It's unbelievable how good he was for the Wolverines. And he was just, he was a force. I mean, there's not another way you can really put it. Hunter Dickinson carried Michigan every single season. I mean, he was the heart and soul of the team. I mean, he went up against Zach Edey and was competitive. Nobody could do that. He's that good of a player. And, He doesn't take a ton of threes, but heck, he'll take a few of them. And he's actually not too bad from the 3-point line. And if you ever let him get anywhere down low, oh Lord have mercy, you are done. Look, I love Hunter Dickinson, so I'm going to be a bit of a Kansas fan this year. I'm not even going to lie. I love Hunter Dickinson, and I really want to see him succeed. And if that means that Kansas wins the title, I am all for it because I love Hunter Dickinson, and I really want to see him succeed at the college level. And I'm sure that he will with Kansas, who, by the way, still returns KJ Adams, still has DeJuan Harris, still has Kevin McCullough, the Texas Tech transfer. Brings in their traditional freshmen this year, and also has a couple transfers from some other schools that they're bringing in as graduate transfers or whatever the case may be. Um, and I think Nicholas Timberlake was probably the biggest one from Towson, but outside of obviously Hunter. But this team is going to be utterly amazing. And you look at Kansas's team, now you add in, I mean, last year I thought their problem was they didn't have a big man. They didn't really have anyone who was, that big in size who would play for them. They didn't really have someone that they threw in. Everyone that they had was like 6'7", 6'8". Maybe you got lucky and they got 6'9". But everybody was around that size. Now, granted, all of them were that. But, when you get guys like Hunter Dickinson who would play up against you, it was very hard for them to get rebounds and would make things kind of difficult. Now you enter in a guy who actually is tall like that, Hunter Dickinson, they're going to dominate the boards. And it's going to be very fun to see Kansas play this year because I got a feeling they might end up being one of the more dominant teams in college basketball. Maybe that's just because I love Hunter and I really want to see him succeed, but I really do believe that Kansas might be one of, if not, I mean, they're ranked number one to start the year. I would not be surprised if they ended up there at the end of the year. They're that good. But that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Obviously, a bit longer of a video this time, but considering it was the preseason poll and I really hadn't looked over anybody at all, I really wanted to look and see who teams actually had left because I really didn't remember anything. So that took a little longer than probably most videos will for college basketball. Might be a while before you get another one because there's actually a long ways to go before the season actually begins. But that's it for me, and I'll see you next time. Until then, adios, everyone.